Pauline's broken her wrist.
Has she?
Can't mistake that, can they?
That's true. Running, that's the best thing. So we can always edit it later. So these are all the tools you use then, Fluff?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, the sort of hand tools we're using all the time.
Yeah. And what's that you're working on now?
The carriage block. Oh, that's all the action.
Right.
There's an old tool over there.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's 100 years old.
Let's have a look at some old stuff that you think's staying out that that we'll miss.
That's one of these anyway. This is for
What is that?
it's
A little too close.
luster on the bench, John.
What's that used for then, Fluff?
Huh?
What is it?
It's a depth tool.
Depth.
When you're making a watch,
Yeah.
or a clock, that matter, clock ones are bigger obviously, you get the depth perfect so you can see it, you see.
Yeah.
When it's between the frame you can't tell, you can't see.
Yeah.
And so you get them running absolutely perfectly in there, meshing that is. And you scribe off your circle.
Neat.
Well, it's beautifully made, isn't it?
Where did you get that from?
Oh, I
You picked it up years ago.
donkey's years. It's older than me, that. But you don't see this sort of thing anymore. It's done more for the old pocket watches.
Yeah.
You couldn't use it on a modern day watch.
Now.
But they were. Well, I'll show you that. Let's see. Because they weren't jewelled, you see. This is Grey of London, about 1700.
Wow. Incredible, isn't it?
You see, you've got all your wheels set in brass, so they wore.
Yeah.
That's all the modern ones are set in jewels, so that would be utterly useless to you, really.
Yeah.
Unless it was that badly worn. It would be the
Yeah.
when it's fully wound, it's pulling on the shore. When it runs down, it gets on that, which has got more leverage, obviously, so you're getting a constant pull from the mainspring onto the watch. But this is proper watchmaking, isn't it? So.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it's cotton.
That's one of yours, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice, actually. Unfortunately, the dials got a bit damaged because the old boy made it so that you with a little lever there as you pull to open it. It's a bit of a daft idea, really. Yeah, after all the experimental days.
Gibson watchmaker.
Max Melton. Robbie Burns country.
Oh, is it? Have you anything here from the guy who used to work in here before? Who was here before you?
A chap called Baker.
Baker?
That's his predecessor. That
Where?
Bates of Cuckfield.
Okay, Bates was the guy. When was he in here?
Well, that was made about. Well, there was the son was the predecessor of Baker, and his father made the clock.
Yeah.
No, his grandfather made the clock about 1790.
That's Bates.
And that's what known as a regulator. It's not a grandfather clock as such. It's just built specifically for timing other work clock.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't sell that as a grandfather clock or anything?
No, not really. Unless somebody wanted it. But
Yeah.
you watch now that when I start to wind it still keeps going.
That's unusual, is it?
It's got what's called maintaining power,
Yeah.
which keeps it going for a few seconds it takes to wind it up. So you don't lose those few seconds.
Yeah.
An ordinary grandfather clock, you wind it and it stops it.
Yeah.
And obviously the reason being that they had that was the master.
Yeah.
And they had no other means of getting correct time without the master. Unless they shot a star, which they had to do at times.
So every clockmaker had one of those in his.
Oh yeah, you have to really.
Yeah.
It's only comparatively recent.
Because there's some old pictures of Bates about, aren't there? I remember seeing some. Was it Bates or who was the guy that I've seen pictures of that was stood outside your shop?
That was my old man.
Was it?
Yeah.
Where? Here.
That's my old man. And it's a slim young thing.
You're in the middle. That was just when you opened the shop, was it?
Shop.
And which is your old man? The guy on the left.
With the bald head. Probably a fag in his mouth.
In his hands, yeah. Can't get that into. Zoom in on it. Better. You just bought the shop then?
Yeah.
And who's the two guys on the left, on the right?
I don't know who one of the blokes are.
There's a young boy.
My nephew's a young boy.
Your nephew?
Yeah, he's now quite an eminent surgeon
Is he?
in Melbourne.
Wow.
A long time ago.
No. 20 years?
You're joking. 40 years.
I'm joking.
40 years.
And there's you catching a fish, is it?
Yeah, that's a sea trap. Might have got a dozen like that.
You look a lot like Barry there, actually.
Which one?
I can't really get that. Let me pin it down.
That's on the other spout.
You just do the cut, that's it. Cool. That's you, is it?
That's the Isle of Skye.
So that's you?
Yeah.
God, that looks so much like Barry. You must have been in your 20s then, were you?
Oh,
Get out, Fluff, what are you doing?
what? That's me in Isle of Mull.
Oh, I recognise that one. That's not too long ago, is it? Since I've known you. Probably.
Yeah. And that's me winding the church clock.
Church clock?
Yeah.
When was that one taken?
The
50s?
Yeah, probably.
Is it still the same as that now?
No, it's electrically done.
Yeah. Still wearing your dicky bow there. Is that when you were in your old doing all your theatrical stuff era?
No, I always wore a dicky bow because when I was in London, I was constantly being called down to see some irate customer or explain something to some customer or another.
Yeah.
And you keep taking your tie off, and your collar got filthy by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I went through the gents' outfit, and there was a great big display of these dicky ties, clip-on things. So
Oh, I
thought,
see.
good idea, you know. So I bought a couple on the spot. And so you just take them off and chuck them on the bench. Because you can't do this work tied up at the neck, you know, because you're right, there's all time. So that's how I kind of started wearing it. And if I wear a tie now, it's always a dicky tie.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I never even thought about that. So Bates was the first.
No.
Who was before Bates?
Yeah, Bates, the early Bates, one who made that one.
That was about 17. What does that date back to? That clock?
1790.
1790.
But he
Wow.
started before that. I mean, then there was the Gatland,
In this shop, or just in Cuckfield?
just in Cuckfield,
Yeah.
and the Smiths.
And which shop were they in then? Where were they? If they weren't here.
B Worms was one.
That used to be a clockmaker.
For the clock shop. Yeah.
So this is only relatively recently then, this shop. I mean, well, I say no, not really. is it?
1790.
Yeah, that's a long time. Before 1790, they were up at B1s.
Oh yeah, they were.
Wow.
The Gatlands were one of the Gatlands was very, very, very good, exceptionally good clockmaker.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen work of his that is as good or better than a lot of the London makers.
Yeah.
And then his son, by that time, the industry was changing, and they tended to import castings and so on from Birmingham
Yeah.
and finish them. They were clock finishes, really.
Yeah.
Well, they had to build them, of course. And then the next stage was buying the whole complete movement, and just
Right.
putting their name on the dial. But that didn't come into about 1800 or so.
Yeah. So how long has this shop actually been? What was it before it was a clockmaker's shop?
It was all part of that next door,
Yeah.
which was quite a substantial sort of house.
Well, it was one big house, was it?
A whole lot.
Including the newsagent on the corner? Or,
No, that was separate.
that was, yeah.
But next door on this place was the one. So this one was meant to be servants' quarters.
Wow.
upstairs in the attic,
Yeah.
you could see where there was like a garret, you know,
Yeah.
with low doors like this, oak floorboards, huge oak floorboards, about that thick, all rough hewn.
And there's a way through, is there, from next door? Is that all sealed up now? But
quite fascinating, really.
yeah. And it changed when Bates came, because Bates used to work here, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after Bates, it was Baker, you said, was it? Oh.
Well, there was father and son Bates.
Yeah. That was throughout the 1800s.
Yeah, Hubert Bates packed up about, I think, well, just after the First World War, and
Yeah. Did you know him then, or?
no, I never did know him. He'd gone by that time, Hubert.
Yeah.
But he was Clockmaker, was an apprentice,
Yeah.
and he stayed on. And when he came out after the First World War,
So wait, hang on a
He took over the
second.
business.
Hubert Bates was the son of the original Bates grandson. So they'd had 3 generations by that time in this shop, and then he had no descendants presumably, or no children or whatever, that wanted to carry it on, and he sold it to Baker. Did he? This guy?
Well, it was a curious relationship because he also left the house which is called Gatland
Yeah.
in Chetfield Road to Claude Baker.
Oh.
So whether he took him in as part of the family, I should imagine that's what happened.
Mm.
By all accounts, he's a funny old boy.
Baker or
Bates.
Bates? Yeah.
Claude was a proper gentleman.
You knew him, did you?
Knew him quite well.
Yeah. He's the one you bought the shop from, was it? Oh.
His wife.
He died, did he?
Yeah. I used to come and see him quite a lot. Then the shop was shut for it's come down at weekends, you know. For ages the shop was shut. And eventually I phoned his wife up,
Yeah.
and she was anything I was worrying him, you know, that I could do while he was ill.
Were you a watchmaker, clockmaker then already, or?
Oh yeah, I started in '34,
Right.
and I was working in Kingston.
Yeah.
Anyway, she said, well, it's no good, you know, I'm selling the shop because he'll never work anymore. And that's how I came to get it, really.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like, if you're not feeling well or in bed or something, you're worrying about some job you promised to somebody, you know.
Yeah. Was it much? How do you recall the shop when you first came here? Was it much the same as you got it now, or was it totally different?
Totally different. It was black curtains there, all over there,
Black.
and shutters used to put up on the outside.
Yeah.
And this was very, very gloomy.
Was it?
Yeah.
How did they work then with the? You need some good light and stuff. Don't you?
Well, I put it all in.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about how he worked.
Well, it was still the remains of his gas light.
Oh, it's all gas driven then, was it?
Well, I think he switched over to electricity,
Yeah.
but all the gas stuff was still there.
Yeah.
The gas is a lovely light to work on.
Yeah.
And the trouble is you get the
fumes.
just have a bowl of water on the bench.
Yeah.
And in those days, jewellers used to work with a big carboy of water, filled with water,
Yeah.
and a light behind it. It sort of diffused the light.
Yeah. Terrible.
All very experimental it was. Yeah. But
Yeah. That's good.
it changed quite a lot around there.
So you've always had it the same as this, have you? The layout of the shop?
No, I started off, I had a bench there, sort of right round me, bench behind me on the front, on the other side.
Yeah.
And the counter was across here.
Yeah.
That was a big showcase, you know, glass front covered show, like that one, much bigger.
Yeah.
That used to be full stuff.
So what are some of the tools you use now? I know you got these ones, the bigger ones that.
Well, there's the lathes.
Yeah.
Two lathes I've got.
Where are
That's a
they?
modern one.
Over there.
That nice one. You see it better. Put that switch down.
Oh, this one. Okay.
That's a modern one, which I replaced. It was an up-down bargain, isn't it?
Right. And you literally make bits with that, do you?
Oh yeah.
I guess with all these old watches, you literally you resign to making all the bits that go in it, because you can't buy them anymore from the man. They're long since dead.
That one I can do all sorts of things on. It's a machine centre really.
Yeah.
Where you can cut teeth on wheels or drilling, turning. You can do it all on there.
Yeah. What about other tools? Have you got? Just thinking of stuff.
Well, some stuff.
But I guess most of it's really intricate stuff. So it's all hand tools mainly.
Oh yes, that's a hand device where you're holding things while you're working on it.
Yeah.
Burnishes. Sorts of different burnishes.
What's a burnisher?
Like if you want to polish a piece of steel,
Yeah.
you can draw. Use a memory cross along it to make sort of tiny grooves and
Right.
you get all sorts of tools that nobody knows really.
They're all, a lot of them especially made for clockmakers, are they? Or are they general purpose?
Oh no, mostly clockmakers.
Yeah. I mean, where do you get tools like that nowadays?
I hate to think what
I mean, if you were
it would
to,
cost it.
you lost them or somehow or other, what would you do? I mean, if you were young and starting up again, you'd be in big trouble, wouldn't you, without some of those tools?
Well, I suppose you get them second hand up to a point, but they don't use them anymore.
No. Well,
Simple as that.
when you say they don't use them, they must use them to do work like you're doing. You're saying that the work they
There's
don't.
nobody doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
There's just nobody doing it, John.
Yeah.
And it's very sad really, because it's all dying out. You know, I mean, I couldn't take on an apprentice because it's all I would like to have done. Because of all the pettifogging rules and regulations for a start.
Yeah.
Plus the fact you've got to pay them a lot of money. And you can't tie them down anymore. Obviously we were bound as apprentices.
Yeah.
My father had put up a bond of 50 quid. I said I'd stay the course. I wouldn't get the sack or...
So how do you start out then in watchmaking? What first gained your interest in
I didn't.
clockmaking?
There was nothing to do. It was in the Big Depression.
The 30s?
Yeah. 1934 I started.
Yeah. And what did
You were lucky, if you lived in the country, you were lucky to get a job. You got two options. You either went labouring on the farm, or you went into service,
Yeah.
which was what I was supposed to be going to do. Become a trainee footman.
Was that could have been your life?
Oh yeah, I mean it was all fixed up and everything.
Yeah.
And then this friend of the old man's came in and he said he'd heard that this chap, the watchmaker he knew, was looking for an apprentice. So I was wheeled along and taken on.
Where was this? Pensive?
Tunbridge Road.
Tunbridge Wells. And what was his name?
Stevens.
Stevens. What was he like?
He was an old bugger.
Was he?
He was a Christian and a self-made man, and he was very good at his job. You know, he was a very good clockmaker.
Yeah.
And he taught me well, but he was a cantankerous little dude.
Yeah.
I mean, on Monday mornings, I remember now, I got one terrible bollocking from him because I was waiting at the shop door when he arrived and he was late. I was showing him up, as if I was doing it deliberately. And I didn't dare answer it back. So ever after that, on a Monday morning, I used to hide around the corner until I heard his old Singer car arriving. And then I'd come rushing around the corner, unless he was late. And then I'd try to arrive at the same time as he did.
Yeah.
It was quite a battle of wits, really.
Incredible, isn't it?
And my first job on a Monday morning was to sweep the shop out, and the step, the stone step, had to whitewash that, clean the windows.
Yeah.
And that was the start of the day on a Monday. And he used to go around winding all the clocks up. And then we get down to work, and everything had to be done the hard way.
What do you mean by the hard way?
Well, literally by hand, you know, everything had to be done. Even like you see these little cuckoos here. That little bird.
Yeah.
Well, they were made of wood. You had to make them. And it's quite complicated because they're all wired up so that like the wings come out and the beak opens. And you can buy them for threepence. Already made. You had to make them by hand.
How long did it take to make one of those then?
Time didn't matter, see, John. Time didn't matter at all. That was the last thing you worried about.
Mm.
This sort of thing I'm working on now, this carriage clock. Now you polish that all by hand, by brush and metal polish, and then wash it out with bending. One day the old man was going away for a couple of days, and he got an old treadle buffing machine. And I thought, I'll get this one up. And I put it on the buffing machine, which was terribly forbidden. You get allowed to use it. And he came back and he said, "You finished that carriage clock, Stuart?" So I said, "Yes, Mr. Stewart." "Have a look," he said. Handed it over to him. Take it out of the case. So I took it out of the case, handed him the movement. He put his eyeglass all over it and said, "Right, take it all to pieces," and said, "Let me see the pieces." And you use like in the plates where the wheel bearings go. You use pegwood like that, you sharpen it up, poke it in the holes and really work it out till it comes out clean.
Yeah.
And that's it, ready for assembly. Got to do is put a pegwood and pokes in. And there was just a little tiny trace of polish. I mean, you can hardly see it. You should have been using that buff, wouldn't you? I said, "No, Mr. Stevens." "Yeah, you're sure." "Right," he said, "do it all again."
Did he?
And it was spotless, really. And I had to sit down and clean it all again and start from scratch.
Well, why was he like that? Was that just because he was... I mean, do you think that was good or bad? I mean...
No, it was very good. It taught you discipline.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, really.
Yeah, lots of things like that. Like he'd tell you once. And I was making a pair of pallets for a clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, a pair of these. Just that steel bit.
Yeah.
No, he told me how to do it. Fair enough, he told me how to do it. And I hadn't listened properly. And I made the pallets. I was on the third set, and this old traveller came in, who'd been a benchman, and I was just about in tears. And he said, "What's the matter, boy?" So I said, "Well, I keep making them up. So this is the third pair I've made," and I said, every time I harden them up, they split or crack or warp. Well, he said, "And old Stephen's told you then?" I said, "What do you mean has he told me?" He said, "He told you to warm the water up." Of course he had. And
You'd forgotten.
so I just finished this one. I said, "Go on, get it up, cherry red, and warm that water up." I did, plunged it, and it was perfect. And the man came in, and he said hello to this travel, and they were quite good friends, you know. And he said, "Finish those pellets, Stuart," he said. So I said, "Yes, Mr. Stevens." "Let me have a look," he said. So I handed them to him. And he knew that I hadn't listened to him when he told me about warming the water up. He said, "No," he said, "you've been talking to the boy," he said. "No," I haven't said anything. But he knew bloody well that, in fact, I must have cocked the rest that I'm up doing it, because there was no way plunging in a really cold water would have held.
Yeah.
And that's what he was like, really. But he's teaching you properly to do the job. His favourite saying was, "One of these days, Stuart, you won't be able to buy these things. You'll have to make them."
Yeah.
And he's right, perfectly right.
Yeah.
I mean, in those days you could buy anything you wanted. You go up to Clockmaker
And get all those.
get everything.
Yeah.
And but, not anymore. I mean, you look in for ages, you can able to get. Well, these are slightly different. And that's a forging. Used to buy them. Just a rough forging.
What's that used for?
That's a pallet. Drives a pendulum.
Oh, I see.
And he bought them and they were mild steel, and you fashioned them out exactly like your pattern, and drilled the hole and then hardened and tempered them. But that was another forging you could get.
Yeah.
See how rough it is?
Yeah.
It's just a rough cast, and you fashion that up as a bridge for your hour wheel.
But you made that, or is that?
No, that's a forging.
Yeah.
But you buy one as near as you can get, forging as near as you can get, and then fashion it up to what you wanted. But all those days are gone. So you have to make a piece of mild steel.
Well, I mean, the moral is that he taught you well, I guess.
Oh yeah.
He anticipated that.
I think it went a bit over the top on the some of it.
Yeah.
It made me very bolshy.
How did you leave him in the end then?
We went around.
Did you?
Yeah, I think he wanted rid of me because he, being a religious man.
He was.
Yeah, he began to feel guilty that I was still working for him as an apprenticeship, and he couldn't pay me enough money.
How much was he paying you then?
12 and 6 a week.
And what year was that? Roughly.
34. 37, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, was that good for the town? I have no idea. Or average or poor or what?
Oh, it was average really. I mean, as I say, you were lucky to get a job like that. I mean, you usually, when there's an errand boy if you're in the town.
Yeah.
And as soon as you wanted another shilling a week, they honour you and took somebody else on, because you can get boys for nothing.
Yeah.
My first 2 years I got 5 shillings a week, and I had to buy sixpence of that went towards my hand tools. And when I got enough, he'd buy me a hammer or a plier.
That's a good idea. Yeah, then you get your own. I mean, they were your personal ones, were they? That you could take.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the only thing you didn't like were things like lathes.
Yeah.
We used to go into lathe. We used to use hand turn,
Yeah.
where you ran everything between centres and you had a bow. And you used your engraver, something like that.
Yeah.
For the downstroke, you put the engraver into it. You know, it was also very good training, but
So what
time
happened?
consuming.
What happened with your row then?
Well, he had this habit of, on a Saturday night, we worked till 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. He had this habit of, at 6 o'clock he'd say, no, you pack up now, Stuart. He said, I wanted you to deliver things on the way home. It's in the countryside, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I had these 3 packets to deliver. 2 of them, they weren't in. And he accused me of lying. He said, you didn't even try. He said, I know perfectly well they would have both been in, but they weren't. I wasn't lying at all. And I suddenly, that was enough, you know. So I let rip at him. I told him what I thought of him. And that was the end of it, you know. And my parting shot was I collected all my own personal tools and laid them out on the bench. I said, just check with Mr. Stevens, I don't want to be accused of pinching your tools. And that really upset him.
And so what did you do after that? Did you...
Well, I went on, but then he goes a journeyman, you see.
A journeyman?
You had 2 years as a journeyman after that.
What's a journeyman?
Well, you're still under certain amount of supervision.
Yeah.
And you work but basically half pay, you know.
Mm. But for another clockmaker?
2 years, yeah.
Who did you work for then?
I can't remember the name. I often try to remember. Reach, I think it was.
In Tunbridge Wells?
Mm. And then, of course, the war came.
Walker?
The war came.
Oh, the walk, sorry.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I went in the RAF. But, well, I wanted to go, but I was very badly asthmatic at the time. How I got through A1, I just don't know. They all tried to stop it. They got my doctor and was going to write to the ministry and all sorts. I said, leave it alone.
This is your family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the doctor himself. I mean, he was furious. But then it was the best thing that could have happened to me, really. It turned out. Because I never had another attack ever afterwards.
Didn't you?
No.
What was that, the shock?
No, it was. My brother-in-law was a psychiatrist, and he always said that I wouldn't get over asthma until I got away from my mother.
Oh.
Now, whether that was true or not, I don't know, but in fact that's what happened.
Yeah.
I suppose knowing the back of my mind I wouldn't get any sympathy,
Yeah.
I got over it.
That's strange.
Funny.
So where were you during the war then?
Oh, in this country all the time, I didn't go abroad.
Yeah.
Tried like mad to go abroad, all the other blokes, mates of mine, were crying their eyes out when they got overseas postings.
RAF, is it?
Yeah. And I never got, I just couldn't get one. I was threatened with one once by this what do you call it? Warrant officer.
Yeah.
He didn't like me, and I didn't like him. And he used to threaten me with it. He said, I'll get you an overseas post one of these days. He said, you won't like it. I said, well, good, that's what I'm looking for. Came down one day, rubbing his hands. He said, right, I've the order from you. He said, overseas posting, I told you I'd get you, he said. So I went up the order room and I started reading out the details. And I said, no, I said, I'm not. I said, I'm instrument maker, not an instrument repairer.
So did you work on instrumentations during the war then? I mean, that would have been perfect for cockpits.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah. And where were you based then?
All over the place, John. I started off with the Biggie Neil, which was a stupid bloody posting, because they ain't got any instruments on this. There you got the boost gauge and a rev counter, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Altimeter, which never went wrong anyway. And then I went on to working with the Army Co-op. That was quite good fun for a little while, but it was boring.
Yeah.
Did a lot of flying there as an observer.
Right.
And then I went on bomber command after that.
And the famous story about your bomb site? You and your...
Yeah.
I've forgotten the guy's name now. Your friend?
Oh, my friend, he was there's Amanda. He came in with Bomber Harris himself.
Yeah.
Because we'd been doing a lot of experimental work.
But there were two of you with one, there weren't
Oh yeah, Albury.
Albury, yes.
But he came in and they said, well, you better get on the sighting head, you know, to get out the bloody way, you know. And when they came in, there was all this gold braid all filling up their workshop, you know. And I was frigging about on their sighting head, I didn't know much about them at all, really.
Yeah.
This technical officer, who was you know, quite a high ranking, was a group captain or something. And he started asking me about it, and I said, I'm terribly sorry, sir. I said, but I'm in the showpiece. What do you mean a showpiece? I said, I've been told to stand here and play about with the sighting head, of which I know practically nothing. Oh, he said, I understand. It's typically Air Force bullshit. Anyway, they were very, very pleased with us because we'd done a lot of research. We're off our own bat, you know. And we used to hold lectures for the air crew.
Mm.
It was very good. So we got highly congratulated over it.
That's great.
Mm. But we had to do a lot of flying in those days.
Yeah. Is that where you met Becky during the war then, or
No,
was it before the war?
Well,
Were you already married when the war?
yeah. No, I got married during the war, the first year of the war.
Where did you meet Becky then?
Well, she used to come down and stay with my mum.
Why was that?
Well, my cousin was also a WAF, and she and Becky were mates. And my cousin used to come
Okay,
and
so
see
she
her
was a
auntie.
friend of your cousin's.
Yeah, my cousin used to come and see her Auntie Maggie. And she started bringing Becky down.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, come on, Mum, need to get away from this lot. And there are two WAFs sitting in the sitting room, you know. And I was in the throes of going through a divorce then.
Yeah.
Only because the RF insisted on it. I've got to do something about it because they were still paying maintenance and things.
Yeah.
You couldn't even dream about divorce in those days. Things that film stars do. But there we go.
So how did you get chatting to Becky then? You just took her out, took a fancy to her one day?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. My mother, she talked me into it, as she always did, talk me into these situations.
Yeah.
She was worried about this, some guy that my cousin Maura picked up. And she said to me, would I go Saturday night with him? Keep an eye on Maura for her. I said, no way, Mum. I said, I don't want to go tangled up with her drinking wax. Oh, just to please me, son, I'm very worried about him. So I went, didn't I?
Yeah.
And we had a few drinks, and Becky suddenly changed from a quiet little mouse to quite a lively little lady.
They always do these women.
Then it was near Christmas. They came down for Christmas, and we went to the village hop.
What, in Cuckfield?
No, in Hampton.
Yeah.
And I dance every dance in the book with Becky, and I can't dance no. Tangos and rumbas and all that. I was dancing. She was introducing me to everybody as her friend Wing Commander Newnham.
Wing Commander?
Yeah. Then we came down here to stay with my sister over Christmas itself. And, that's where it really all started. I apologise to her for kissing her the night before. And, she said she didn't mind, and the rest of it, so it went on from there. So, she actually knew my first, or seen her my first wife. It's nothing to do with her. She cleared off by with a sergeant in the paper at the time.
Your first wife?
Yeah.
Was that a big shock to you, or?
Well, in fact, there again, my mum, you see, she was upset about it, but she said, I think you ought to have another try, son. I said, no, I haven't done anything. I said, she keep clearing off with these other blokes. I said, what am I supposed to do, you know? Well, just try again, she said. I'll have a talk with Beatty, you know. So I said, right, next weekend leave, I'll go and see her and try and sort things out. So next weekend I came down and my sister, my elder sister was down. She said, oh, Beatty wants a divorce. I said, are you joking? I said, I've come down specially to try to sort things out. So she, well, she's living with this man now, she said, and she wants a divorce.
How far can you remember back, and just a bit of family history, you know, in your family? What's the farthest you go back? I mean, what was your dad like, just to start with that? What do you recall of him?
Well, we fought.
Yeah? He was, was it a hard man, or
No,
what did he
not
do
really.
for a living? I mean,
Nothing.
nothing.
No. He was unemployed for 4 years anyway, during the Depression.
Yeah. But before that, I mean, generally, what was his?
Well, he was a chief engineer on these big steam trawlers in Aberdeen.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, that's how he met my mum. And
What do you mean? That's how he met?
well, my mum was in the Salvation Army as a songstress, you know, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
And he saw us singing on the street corner and fell in love with her.
Yeah.
And in order to marry her, he joined the Salvation Army.
What?
In Aberdeen.
I mean, what do you mean? In order to marry her?
Well, they had to marry an officer in there.
Oh, did they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it must have been really serious then.
Anyway, they did eventually get married, and
This is round about the turn of the century, is it?
well, I was born in 1920.
So,
And,
oh, a bit later than that. Was he in the First World War then?
yeah.
What did he do in that?
Well, he was on the trawlers, you see.
Mm.
And they had this yacht. They commandeered this yacht, and they commandeered this yacht. He did think very highly of it. Sharp-nosed bloody boat, he called it. Yeah, because the trawlers, you know, that trawlers are sort of, and they ride all the way, this one went straight through it. and they were a Q-boat. They had a gun on board, supposed to be to protect the fishing fleet.
Mm.
And, he was still in that until what must have been just before the war finished, I think. And he got his eye smashed up, but he had a bad accident. They used to have, you know, carbide lamps.
Yeah.
Well, they used to have those for lighting. I mean, his second in command, he was chief engineer, his second in command they were in rough water. And he was trying to recharge these canisters with carbide. And the old man was giving him a hand, which he no need to have done really. He grabbed one of these canisters, and it was hot, and he just threw it into the bunker. Where they keep the coal. And a bit of metal flew off and right in his eye. There was carbide on it. So he was rushed into Reykjavik Harbour in Iceland. And they couldn't do a lot for it at the time. He was sort of left with his eyes, double vision in that one eye. And then when the Second World War broke out, and he'd been unemployed then for 4 or 5 years. And they called for volunteers amongst the old lags, you know, to go and teach the incoming crew. Trim boilers and all that sort of thing. So he joined up again. He was overage for a start. And he got this bad eye for another thing. They wanted him so badly they overlooked these sort of things. Then he eventually was discharged because they found him. He had a bad fall and rough seas when they were minesweeping. And then he found out the condition of his eye, and he completely missed the handrail. And then they go checked up on him, found he was overage, found he shouldn't be in the Navy anyway. So he got his medical discharge. But, he's got a character.
What was he like to you when you were growing up? I mean, how many brothers and sisters?
There was 5 of us. 5 kids.
Yeah.
Always some good times, you know. It was only when we started getting older. When I started getting older, I sort of fell out with them.
What about going back even further then, your grandparents?
No, I never knew them.
Not at all?
No.
I mean, but you must know of them. I mean, what was the story?
Oh God, that's complicated with this job.
Is it?
Talk about niggers in the woodpile, no. One of them cleared off to Australia and made a fortune. Left his wife and all the kids.
Yeah.
And they were brought up by various relatives.
That's your granddad?
Hmm?
It's your grand...
No, his granddad. No, his father, my granddad, yeah.
Yeah. And where did they used to live, your grandparents? I mean, was it Sussex or was it...
Well, the one that cleared off to Australia,
he's your dad's dad?
yeah, he...
Leaving your dad here?
Hmm? Yeah, no, he and the two of the boys went to Plymouth.
Sorry, your dad and
My dad and his 2 brothers
yeah, went to
went to Plymouth. And they were sort of brought up down there. And then...
With who? Their auntie or something? Or?
Oh, there's lots of relatives down there.
Yeah.
I never, I said it really, I should have kept notes of it, because they married into a Bowie family, a Cornish family, of Devon. And then this Uncle Jim, my father's brother, saw advertising for Bowies of such and such a place. They'd been left a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
£250,000.
Cool.
And this father had made it off to Australia.
So, hang on a sec, your grandfather had left £250,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, old Uncle Jim, he came out of the Navy after 50 odd years as a naval seaman. He's a right boy, was. All because of some slight thing that happened to him during his early days in the Navy, and they put him in the brig for something he hadn't done. Anyway, Jim kept on about this money, you see, to my father. And the old man used to just laugh at him, you know, and take the mickey, you know. Of course, I was about 16 at the time, I suppose. I'm dead keen to get some money.
Yeah.
You know. So I said to him then, I said, what about this money that Uncle Jim keeps on about? And the old man said, well, it's there all right. I said, why didn't you get hold of it? You know, like you would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Young bloke. And he laughed. He said, no, well, he said, I've nothing to do with it. He said, I'll have my share if anybody else gets it. He said, no, I'm going. I said, well, why not? He said, look, there's such a tribe of them. He said, if I'd got all the hard work done and got all of this money, he said, they'd all descend like a load of cormorants. And old Will Jim used to get so mad. And then when the old man died, we were walking down to the church. Jim had come up for the funeral. And he's put his arm around my shoulder on the way down, and he says, well, Fluff, it's up to you now. I said, what are we talking about, Uncle Jim? Well, the money, of course, he said. So I laughed, and I said, no, forget it, Jim. He said, you're as bad as your bloody father, he said.
So, nobody's claimed it yet?
No.
Who's got it then?
God, no.
So in trust?
Chancery, I suppose.
Oh, dear.
And then of course, Barry, at one stage, when Barry was a teenager, he was getting all keen on this. You see.
Yeah.
Quite funny, really. There's no doubt about it, he did do it.
Yeah. How did he make his money then in Australia?
I don't know. Really? Probably so.
So how old were you when he left to go to Australia?
I don't think
Roughly.
I was even born.
Oh.
No,
Well, you must have
no.
been born.
No. No.
Oh, this is your grandfather, sorry.
No. But I never knew him.
No. What about your grandmother?
Well, she was a Bowie. It was to the Bowies that the money was left.
Yeah.
Or any of his offspring. And,
What about their parents? Do you go back that far from you?
no.
You know stories from who they might have been, or
No, I tended to follow more the Scottish side, really.
which was the Scottish side then?
My mum's.
Your mum's side. That's
Mackenzies.
the Bowie.
Mackenzies.
Oh, that's your grandparents were Bowies, weren't you? Your mum's were.
And my grandparents on my mother's side were Mackenzies. And as far as I recall, their mother died young and left these kids as, again, about 5 of them. And they were brought up by another old aunt, because my grandfather died, they said, of a broken heart, you know, but, you know.
Yeah.
I've got the old family Bible, actually, where it was presented to him by Gordon, Sheriff Gordon of Crathy Castle. He was the laird's man, and big estates down here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they were all brought up by this old aunt. My mother went out slaving to get my brother, her brother into university, or keep him in university. Which is all she wanted to do herself, really. Tragic sort of climber, I think.
So do you know any of the relatives from Australia?
No. My sister kept it up a bit, but my eldest sister, she knew most about it. I wasn't really interested in it.
Yeah.
And then because they all started dying off, it was too late then.
So your father came to live in Cuckfield. How did the Cuckfield start?
No, well, my sister came to live in Cuckfield with my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
And the old man, when he came out of the Navy, he got a shop similar to this, only a bit bigger. He was a manager.
Whereabouts was that?
In Hampton.
Yeah.
Hampton Court, Hampton. And he was doing quite well, getting on quite well there. And then my sister had some madcap scheme of starting up a special school for education of subnormal kids and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And run it with my brother-in-law. Well, he'd be an advisor, you know. This sort of thing appealed to the old man. He was going to be the major domo. You know, that sort of appealed to him. And he got more and more disillusioned with his shop, which had been doing very well at. He was well respected. He was called the Admiral. You know. He used to buy books and so on the side. You know, I mean, his boss knew, but he didn't want to know, so the old man did it off his own bat. And, you know, they were doing very well. He got more and more disillusioned with it. And then my sister talked to me into coming down here, because they found a place. But they never did. Never went on there.
So you lived at the bottom down
Brook Street.
Brook Street, yeah.
Not us, only his mother and father.
Yeah.
And they were, the old couple were, they treated them well enough, but they took away their independence, you know. And the old man gradually went down. He was alright at first, but then gradually went down, lost all interest in it. With the inevitable result.
So you moved in here around early 30s then? 34, what did you say?
No, I came here
Oh, later than that.
much later than that.
Yeah, that's when you started. 50s, was it?
Yeah, we came to live down here before that, down Brook Street. We hired this house. We'd been left to this young bloke by his auntie and uncle. He lived over in Kent somewhere, and he didn't want to sell it, so we rented it off him. Where Keith and Rich live now. And really, I was silly. I should have hung on to the house and not lived here. You know.
Did the clockmakers always live on the premises here then, or?
Not necessarily, but
No. Usually.
where's Becky got to? Where's Ren too?
I was hoping to get Becky on film, the both of you. But, we'll catch her another day.
Yeah.